So, for everyone on the podcast, you haven't missed a beat and you heard my phone ring, but for anyone on YouTube, this will be, I guess, a part 2 because I had a phone call come through and I could have sworn I put my phone on airplane mode, but I didn't. So I apologize to anyone that heard that, and then to you, Samantha, as well. Sorry, because that kind of disrupted our conversation. And I was checking out the counter, too, and so I could see how long we're freaking recording to let you know. Looks like, well, I can tell on this one, we're about a half hour in. So it's up to you if you want to keep going, and I got more questions, but of course, I know you said you got to work early tomorrow morning, so it's entirely up to you, of course.
I'm good as long as I get in bed by 1 a.m. I should be fine.
So 1 a.m. is, so where you're at, you're probably an hour or 2 hours difference from here, because I think we're about, what is it here? I can look. I'm at 9 o'clock here. Okay, so you're an hour ahead. Okay, yeah, so, yeah. Okay, so.
But Kyle might want me to get the hell out of the room so he can go to bed, because he's a grumpy bastard in the morning if you don't get his beauty sleep.
Okay, well, we can cut her down here pretty soon. I don't have too many more questions anyhow. I guess, so I won't go into the whole social justice warrior thing. I figure that's kind of like it's one of those things that's a thorn in my side, but that's kind of where we were starting to go with the label thing. But I guess one of my questions was, do you guys have any kids prior or no?
Okay, so Mark, he does actually have 2 kids with his ex-wife.
Okay.
That's not really my story to tell, but it's very sad and just overall devastating what he went through. Long story short, he does not see his kids. He has not seen them in 5 years.
Wow, that's sad.
Yeah, it tears him apart every day, especially during this time of the year, where we just got to
for sure.
Mm-hmm. Kyle, he does not have any kids, and nor do I, unless you count our 4-legged furry creatures as our children, which we do.
Oh yeah, they're always a part of the family, for sure. Yeah, I mean they know what love is too.
Oh yeah. But Kyle and I, we have been pregnant several times, and I have lost all of them due to miscarriage because of some medical conditions I have.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's not okay, though. That's horrible. I'm sorry to hear that. That sucks.
It's okay. He and I, we've had 6 miscarriages. I did have a miscarriage from another guy, too. Back when I was 17, my boyfriend at the time raped me and got me pregnant. But I lost that one, too. And then Mark and I, we've been pregnant once, and I also lost that one. So I've had a total of 8 miscarriages.
Wow.
But we are currently trying to produce a little crotch goblin to introduce to the world.
Wow, okay. So obviously this is a tender subject for you. We've had friends that have dealt with the in vitro and things of that nature, so I don't understand, but I guess I can say is it's I guess I feel blessed. I mean, because I started having kids late. I mean, I was 39 when I had my first one, and so I'm very blessed, especially for starting so late. So every time I hear someone that goes through it, it's especially when they want to be parents, it's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah.
And all I can say is I'm sorry, and I wish it were different, and I hope you the best to succeed in this, But there are other ways, because I have a cousin that adopted, and you wouldn't know any different. They love him just the same, and he's our family.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing too. I come from a broken thing too, and a lot of my family's not blood related, but they love me all the same. So, that's why why I understand what you're saying about loving 2 people, because love is love, and for someone else to define what your love is bullshit. You get to define what your love is. It's not for others.
We have discussed other options.
It's expensive.
Adoption, fostering. But we figured the best route, because I'm a stubborn little shit, is we try, and we continue to try with me carrying. And if all else fails, then I actually have a friend who said that she will be my surrogate, and Mark has actually started an account that he sets aside money weekly in for that if it needs to happen.
So you would produce your eggs and his sperm or semen, rather, whatever, to do it? Yeah, okay, perfect. And honestly, she would just be a carrier if that would be the best option, obviously.
Yeah, and honestly, like, this is going to sound really, really terrible, but we don't care who the dad is. It's basically kind of like a baby lottery on who I get knocked up with. But with that, I mean, obviously, you got the legal factors and everything else, but they're willing to share the dad situation? Yes. Yes,
wow.
They are.
Because that was going to be some of my other questions, I guess, of course, was that, one. And then I guess the second thing is I don't think it's necessarily wrong to raise a kid in any type of environment as long as it's loving. The only thing I will say is this: are you willing to deal with how society treats your kid? You know what I mean? Especially when they start going to school and stuff like that, and how other kids, if they find out about having two dads and a mom, and getting teased for that, let alone, we get teased for fucking everything else. Just curious how you felt.
My point of view, because we did actually discuss that.
Yeah, of course. It's smart to think about.
My point of view on that, and they share that same point as me, is, a lot of kids come from families where they do have two of each parent. Be it their parents separated and they're remarried, or kids get adopted into a same-sex marriage, or like how it was on Friends with Ross, Susan, and the other chick. I forget what her name is.
Yep, I remember.
Two moms and a dad.
I was a Friends fan. I watched that shit. Yeah.
Huh?
I was a Friends fan. I watched that shit when I was in my 20s. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I remember it quite well.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think, so you think as time goes on, then people are going to be more accepting. You don't think, your son or daughter would be singled out, hopefully?
Well, if they do end up getting singled out, then Mama Bear is going to come out and be whooping ass, to be quite honest.
Right.
And,
it's just, for me, because I always feel like protecting my kids the best I can, and I don't know. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, there is a homeschooling, but at the same time, I just hope, like you, that maybe by then we'll be more accepting of those things. But, kids are fucking brutal. They just are,
Yeah, and, I mean, we're going to be very open with our kids. It's probably not going to come to light to them of, oh, crap, I have two dads, that's not normal.
No, they won't know any different. And especially if you guys are loving, they're going to feel like, fuck, this is amazing. It's just what other kids are going to say and do, and obviously, parents are going to judge.
It's odd, because, yes, the situation, it is odd to a lot of people.
Well, hey, if you're fine with it, then who gives a shit what other people think? But, I was even asking the wife about this question, she was like, are you sure? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm curious, because it is a big thing. And, protecting your kid is always a parent's mission in life, So I was just wondering how you felt about it, because I think it is a big thing. But I mean, I remember as a kid, for me, I mean, I'm quite a bit older than you, but there was I mentioned on the podcast before about the Benetton ad, and Benetton was a clothing company back in the day in the 80s, and their ads were just all races. There was right, and that was the thing, on the shirts, and I think that helped out Generation X, my generation, and it's pushing forward more and more all the time. And with your generation and on, I think, and maybe by the time your kids and my kids, are in high school, they will just be like, who cares? Do what you do. And I guess that's my thing too. So I'm more like your boyfriend Mark, in a sense of I don't care what people do at all. I think I said this earlier, obviously, but it's up to you, But not everyone thinks that way. A lot of people love to judge, and it's because, well, you know this. If you put some of these people think if you put someone down, it makes themselves feel bigger or more superior because they know of their shortcomings, you know, and they like to shit on others to make themselves feel better. So anyway, I hope you do the best with that, because that's going to be tough for sure.
Thank you. I'm hoping for the best too.
I just hope you get a child. That's important. If that's what you want, that's huge. You know.
Oh yeah, and you know, I've always wanted to be a mom more than anything in this world.
Really?
I didn't care if I had a dude or, you know, if I got married or whatever. I was fine being a single mom, and then, you know, real life hits you, and rather than ending up with 2 children and no men, I ended up with 2 men and no children.
Well, you know, I'm sure one of them from time to time act like children. I know I do every once in a while, and the wife still gets pissed at me, so, because we were out drinking the other night, and I always say things, so... I don't have a filter as it is, and then as I drink, it's like the filter's completely gone. So, you know, because I'll tell you real quick, because I thought it was funny, because the thing is like, and here again, it was my viewpoint compared to someone else's. We were at this bar, and someone walked by, and they were wearing like this huge wig. And do you know who Pat Benatar is from the 80s? The musician?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who Pat Benatar is, the musician from the 80s?
Oh, heck yes.
Okay.
I love that woman.
Okay, so you remember how she dressed, like fishnet, hair really spiked out, glittered out face, and just really overdone up makeup and whatnot. Well, this person was dressed very similar, and glittered up top and skirt, fishnet stockings, high heels, the whole 9. And they're walking by, and of course it caught my attention because everyone else is, I don't mean to say dressed normal, but just dressed in jeans and shit. And so I'm just like, you know, wow, you know, and me being a smart ass, not thinking anything, I just say, hey, did anyone catch Pat Benatar walking by? And people are like, oh, you're being a dick, you're a fucking sexist, and mainly my wife and others. But because I guess this person was transgender, and I didn't even see that. I just saw the outfit, like, hey, you're looking for attention, you know. And so I had to explain it to him, like, that's what, I wasn't trying to shit on them for sexuality. I didn't even fucking notice that. And they're like, you didn't notice that? I'm like, no, I noticed the glitter and the shine. I wasn't checking them out. No. I just thought it was quite a fucking statement.
I love it when I see people who have like these unbelievably outlandish outfits, or they're like extremely flamboyant. It's just like,
yeah,
hell yeah, dude, you do you. I love it.
Well, yeah,
I mean, just, like,
I don't care either.
Lambert.
I went to Gay Pride, or not a Gay Pride, Gay Pride March, whatever it's called, parade in San Francisco, because I lived in Alameda for like almost a year, and I wanted to see it. I wanted to check it out. I was just curious, you know. So I went over there and stood on the sidewalk and watched them march by, and yeah, you see everything, and you know, yeah, of course you laugh and they'll laugh with you. It's not like you're laughing. I mean, I guess some of them you're kind of laughing at because some are really fucking ridiculous outfits, and some of them are just bare naked and shit. So it's just you see everything, and but
well,
it was
I
just.
mean, if they're comfortable enough in their own skin to do it,
Yeah.
I'd say more power to you, man.
Yeah, I
you won't
didn't
catch
care.
me dead. Personally, you will not catch me dead, even in a extremely modest 2-piece
Really?
bikini.
You're just so like my wife. That's hilarious.
My stomach has to be covered. I have to have like a swim skirt on. It's just like, no. The only time I ever walk around like extremely slutty is in the comfort of my own home. I'm
just for
like,
your man.
Nobody wants to see that. So for people who are confident enough in themselves to do that, I'm just like, hell yes, do it.
No, I always say to each your own, but I mean, it's one of those things too. It's like, because I have a lot of punk rock friends, and I was a metalhead, and I remember, you know, having the looks, or people give people looks, you know, when you look a certain way. It's like, well, you are attracting attention, you know, when you go out there dressed like that. When I used to have long hair and wear my metal shirts, it's like, well, of course I'm going to get the rednecks to look at me and say shit, you know, or my friends that were skater punks, and the rednecks will fuck with them, you know. But it's like one of those things, it's like, yeah, you kind of are you wearing it for attention to a certain extent. It's like, I just hope people kind of acknowledge that, you know?
Yeah, I can understand that.
You know, anyway. Sorry, I'm all smoking my joint, talking to you. So yeah, if we want to cut this off, I was going to say, I guess, because we did talk about on our messaging about talking about anxiety and depression, but we can maybe have another conversation down the road if you're more than willing, or if you want to come back on the show. I'd love to have you back.
Heck yeah. There's, there are a lot of things that I would love to talk about,
Great.
Besides the relationship that I have. I really want to, I really want to bring awareness to women about a couple of conditions that are very possible for them to get. And
Perfect.
Just how hard it is to try and overcome them, and the depression and the anxiety that go right along with it.
Because I was going to ask you if you had a personal message you wanted to get across, or to tell any of the listeners or viewers of, if there's, like I said, any personal message. It sounds like you do. So, if it's something you wanted to just kind of briefly go over right now, and we could cover it down the road on a future podcast, that'd be great.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I would love to.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Because you said you had to get up early, and you're in Mark's room, I believe, and he wants to get to sleep as well. So, I want to be respectful and make sure I have guests back on.
Are you kidding me? They're cooped up in the living room right now watching a movie that's not going to be over for a little bit. So
right.
We're fine.
Okay. So yeah, if you want to cover that a little bit as far as your personal message, because I think everyone kind of, well, this is one mine. The podcast, I wanted to do it mainly because a lot of my friends and family said that I had a good message, and so I was like, well, I want to just help if I can. And by exposing my uglies, I just hope it helps other men if they've been molested or beaten or whatever it is, that they, it doesn't necessarily define you forever, And that's my goal, is to just be a positive influence and to help out if I can. So I'll let you go ahead and then talk about whatever you like. The floor is definitely yours.
Okay. Well, first off, I do want to address, a little bit more about mine and my relationship with my boys.
Okay.
It's definitely not easy. Every relationship has its ups and its sorry, my voice keeps going out.
That's okay.
It has its ups and its downs.
For sure.
And when you're involved with two people, it doesn't matter, male, female, whatever, you have double the task. And it's hard to find that good balance with both your partners. And it can be a daily struggle. I mean, for a while there, Mark and I, we were arguing about daily, although I will admit the makeup sex was worth it. I'm not going to lie. For a while there, I was starting fights just because the makeup sex was so awesome. I know, I'm a little shit. I don't care.
That's okay.
And it's not for everybody. And anybody who thinks that I'm going to hell, just keep in mind, yes, I am going to hell with a VIP pass, and I'm probably going to be taking the throne, so watch out. I have lost multiple friends over my relationship. They didn't approve, and so they said sayonara, or they tried to talk me out of it, and I told them, beat it. No, I'm not comfortable coming out to my family about it yet, but that probably will happen in the future. I'm just trying not to give my dad a heart attack right now.
That's understandable. It really is. I mean, you don't have to explain it to anybody, really. But, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you.
I just want to throw that out there.
No, sure. It shows that you care, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I do care about my family, and I do kind of care about what they think, but at the same time, I'm like, none of you fuckers really have much to do with me anyways, so, yeah, whatever, at this point. Now, you asked me earlier if I had ever been intimate with both of them at the same time, and that answer is no. Have I thought about it? Yes, but it's, I don't know how I feel about the whole BT thing. I'm pretty sure it would hurt a lot, so I'm not ready to try that yet.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering, because it would assume, because I've never had two women, but it's one of those things like every guy's fantasy, right? Having two women at the same time kind of thing. And, you know, and I'm not shy to say I've watched plenty of pornos, and I'm a male, you know, that's what we do. And I guess even females always have sexuality about them too, not all of them, but it's pretty common for men. But it's one of those things, like I always thought too, it's like, you know, you always have these visions of like how it would go. But then if it ever happened, like, would I be able to perform, or would I just like, you know, right away and then be like, okay, now what? You guys want to hang out and watch a movie? You know, and it's just one of those things like you think you're going to be this badass pimp and you're so, you know, you're going to lay the pipe, you know, and all that, whatever these stupid terms. But then when you get into the situation, you're like, hi. You know, you turn into a fucking little kid, you know, and, yeah, you want to hang out? You know, and before you're like, oh, I'm going to grab you and do this and put you up against the wall and all this kind of talk. And then when it happens, you're like, nipple, you know. It gets very cutesy all of a sudden, you know, before, you know. Yeah.
So we actually, I have been intimate with Mark and with Kyle. While being intimate with another woman, we have had 3 ways. Where, you know, it's 2 guys, 1 girl. I mean, sorry, reverse that. 2 girls, 1 guy. Oh, my God. I haven't even been drinking tonight. What the hell?
No, that's fine.
And it was with Mark's ex-girlfriend.
Oh, wow.
And I had to be unbelievably drunk to do it because of how I felt about her, but I knew it was a fantasy of theirs, so I was like, okay, let's just down this bottle of vodka and get this shit over with.
Oh, wow. Huh.
And I have been looking for another girl to, you know, do that with, because neither one of them were really all that into it, and it wasn't because of me, even though I was drunk as a skunk. It was because of her and her hygienic issues.
That's not good.
Yeah. I don't really, I want to throw up just thinking about it. Let's just, no.
Yeah, that can be a difficult situation. I mean, it did come up in my mind, and I thought, I'm not going to ask that, but I mean, obviously it'd be something maybe the viewers would be curious about too, but it's like, yeah, you probably would want to be pretty careful with those little creepy crawlies and the cross, you know, whatever. I mean, yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean? Well, you do. You know what I'm saying, obviously. But yeah, I mean, because things can be transferred quite easily, especially if one person has it and all of a sudden everybody has it. In your situation, for sure. Yeah. And then if them were to go outside, then obviously I could definitely bring something in. So yeah, that's interesting.
See, now the thing is, if we do have another girl in the mix, I'm the one who has to bring her in. And I have to know, for one, that she's clean. For 2, she's not going to get clingy and try and steal either one of my boys away, because then it's going to be, you'll see me on 60 Seconds and how the murder went. Like I said, I'm very territorial of my men.
So this is going in a certain direction.
Critical, but whatever.
No, this is going in a certain direction that's helpful for me, because this is something me and the wife have argued over many a time. And it's about sexuality versus sex. And so for your sexuality, in a sense, is you're attracted to men and women, but you only want to be committed to your 2 men. But your sexuality is you're able to be with men and women and have like a someone come into your relationships just for a fling or for fun kind of thing. Is that what I'm catching?
Yeah,
in a sense.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if Mark or Kyle would want to get involved with another girl and bring her in to our relationship as like a permanent thing until she decided to leave, or we all just decided it wasn't working out, that'd have to be an argument that I would have to fight and not take it out on whoever's, you know, bringing them in. But it has to be a cohesive relationship where all of us get along, and it's not, well, it's me or them, you know, type deal like it was with his last. Yeah. So, you know, it would have to be where we are all committed to each other. she would have to be shared just as much as I am, and
that could get sticky, no?
that.
I mean, because that's where feelings can get really hurt. I mean, I would think, if that happened. But what do I know?
But, I mean, they have been champs through this whole thing, and I'm not going to lie, I can get a little crazy. I can go off my rocker. But that's honestly not trying to make excuses or anything. That is part of the conditions I have. So, I mean, I guess that's a perfect lead-in to my conditions.
Yeah, please. If you want to. You don't have to indulge if you don't want.
Excuse me. I can. I'm good. I can keep going. They're still watching the movie. So.
No, I mean, as far as, just revealing anything personal, you don't have to, of course. You don't feel like you have to or something that doesn't,
Oh, no, I'm comfortable talking about this stuff. In the beginning, I wasn't, when I was first diagnosed with all this shit, I wasn't happy with it at all, but I don't think any woman would be. So, growing up, I hit puberty at a very young age. I was only 9, which isn't normal. And my mom, she thought it was normal because she hit it when she was early, too.
Oh.
Not 9 years old, but she was about 12-ish when she got, when she ended up in puberty.
Right. You're saying having your period the first time, obviously, right?
Huh?
Having your period the first time is what you're saying, maybe?
Yeah, when, all those hormones hit, and, you bleed for the first time and you freak out and you're like, what the hell is wrong with my vagina? Why is it bleeding?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because we see blood as humans, we're like, what the fuck? I'm in trouble. Makes sense.
Well, luckily my mom, she was very open with me about, periods and, sex and all that when I was extremely young.
It's like, wow.
So I kind of knew what all that was, probably before I should have known, but at the same time, I think that kind of helped me in the long run with everything.
So your mom kind of, in a sense, over-sexualized or let you know, obviously, too much, too young. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, she was very open with me, so that way life wouldn't bitch slap me as hard as most people.
Yeah, but it's, I think too much, too young is that. It's too much, too young. But that's my opinion, of course. Because I grew up similar. I had Playboy magazines. My mom was cool with it. And I'm not doing that shit for my kid.
With the whole sexual thing, she didn't just come out one day and just be like, all right, so Samantha, sit down with me. We need to have this talk. It was more along the lines of, as I got older, I started asking questions and stuff like that. And it didn't help that I walked in on them, doing the horizontal monster bash. So,
yeah, that's always a kid's worst memory. Yeah. Yeah, every kid has similar memories of it, whether they walked in or just heard it or whatever, and you're just like, you're just scarred for life from that shit.
But, she would explain things to me in an age-appropriate way.
Okay.
Until I was old enough to comprehend it and understand. She really, honestly, didn't even really have to have the sex talk with me, because she had covered so much over a span of time with me. So that was pretty cool. And, I didn't become sexually active willingly until I was 18. And it's, a lot of people find it odd that I enjoy sex so much because of the things that I've gone through.
No.
My conditions being one of them, and then I've been raped more than I've been raped quite a few times when I was 17 by an ex-boyfriend, and then when I went to a party, some guys spiked my drink, and they took me into a room, and things happened. But
I'm sorry. Don't
it's
say
okay.
it's okay. Don't say it's okay, because it's not okay. And because I've learned this from talking to any of my wife's friends, any of my ex-girlfriends and friends, any girl I know, woman, whatever, because I'm 46 now, and I found out, I think it was only a few years ago, that every single woman I know has been assaulted or touched or whatever it is in some sort of way. Like every single one of them. And it blew my mind. I had no idea. So,
yeah, and the sad
and
thing
it goes
is
to
a lot
levels.
of us women, myself included, we don't feel like anybody is going to take us seriously because of how society portrays us women as these sex symbols, you know, being provocative. And then a lot of things that I had seen and a lot of things that I had witnessed, it was made out to be the girl's fault. She shouldn't be dressing provocative like that. You know, she shouldn't be, basically, you just shouldn't be a fucking girl.
Yeah,
you know, if you don't want to get
raped,
raped, have a dick.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
But I know that there are men out there who have been raped, you know, so I know it's both sides. It's not just women who get the shit under the stick on that. You know,
but here's the thing about that, though. The thing about men and women getting raped, and generally it's when we're younger. But the thing of it is like, not to throw my gender under the bus, but we're the majority, or men are majority of the ones that do the raping. There's very, very minimal women that rape, other than ones that are in jail. It's not something that's done.
No, but there are a lot of women who claim that they were raped when they really weren't.
No,
and
of course
to me,
not. Yeah.
that's just as bad as doing a rape,
For
and so
sure.
they should end up being prosecuted and put in jail and have to fucking do their time because
I'm there with you on
they
that
could
one.
have ruined that man's life.
I even think it's worse than actually that, because you're not only accusing an innocent man, you're also taking something that is so serious as rape and making it trivial. And that's something else I could hit on.
Women like that make us the ones who actually have experienced that and who have gone through that. You know, they're the ones who make it extremely hard for us to go forward. Because
I agree.
The justice system doesn't take it serious.
Yeah, I agree. There's something else. I was thinking about the word rape, and I'm glad you said it, because I hear a lot on, you know, social networks, media, whatever, TV and everything else. They like to call it sexual assault. And to me, it's like, that pisses me off, because they don't like to hear the word rape because it's too aggressive and it's you know, harsh or whatever. And to me, it's like, well, it's a horrible act that deserves a horrible name. Just like the word slave is uncomfortable to hear and say, well, because it represents a horrible thing. It's the same thing with rape. It's a horrible word because it represents a horrible act. And we shouldn't just sweep it under the rug because it's a PC world and we don't like the way it sounds. That kind of pisses me off. You know, personal opinion, of course. Sorry for that little rant.
Well, I agree with you 100%. I mean,
cool.
I have been raped and I have been sexually assaulted, and to me, they are two totally different things, but they are in the same spectrum. I was sexually assaulted at work, and you know, the police were called and everything like that, and luckily I had a couple of male coworkers who did help me out. I freaked out. I froze for a second, and then I got the dude off of me, and then my male coworker came out of nowhere and tackled the motherfucker down to the ground and held him there until police got there.
Wow.
And
that, of course, has to spark the old memories of being raped, of course, because that's what we do. Our minds go instantly there to that well. So even if you weren't raped that time, it's almost like being mentally raped either way. And once again, I'm sorry.
When that assault was going on, all I could remember was those other guys, like their faces flashing through my mind and what they had done to me, and I was like, no, not again. I am not going to be a victim again. Fuck this. And I broke the dude's nose, and I'm not going to lie, it was very satisfying hearing his nose crunch underneath the back of my skull.
Good. He deserves that and a whole much more. He actually doesn't deserve to be alive, in my opinion. I think it's one of those things of the wife gets on me with this, like, so what do you do with these people? And in my opinion, since I'm harsh with this stuff, so as far as like a pedophile or a rapist, it's one of those things of like, you can't cure that. So there's no point of having them around. And I don't give a fuck who says, oh, that's not blah, blah, blah. Shouldn't do that shit. I'm sorry. Once you touch a little kid, or once you rape another individual, someone that is unwilling to have sex with you, you're a fucked up individual, and I'm not sure we want or need you around. And to be rehabilitated, I don't think it's possible, because they even say themselves they can't be. And so they need to be watched at all times. It's like, no, fuck that. It's not our fucking problem. They're the problem. They got to go.
I agree with you 100%, but then there is that factor of, okay, so I went to school with this one guy, and he is now a registered pedophile. Now, I knew this guy very, very well, and the whole reason he was a registered pedophile is because he was dating this one girl. He had just turned 18. She was 16. He broke up with her. She got pissed off, and she said that he raped her. And
see, in that situation,
so now he's a registered pedophile. And
that's bullshit.
But that was false accusation.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Like, that's the thing too about statutory rape. I'm not huge on that one. Now, if we're talking like someone's like 25 and older dating someone 17 and younger, you're sketchy. But that's the thing. It's like when we're talking like a 17-year-old,
like a 25-year-old getting with a 5-year-old or some shit like that.
Yeah, it's beyond fucked up. But all of us in high school, I always dated girls who are younger than me, and girls always dated up. A lot of girls in high school dated guys in college, and you couldn't get with them because you didn't have what the college guy had, and that was the story, and I'm sure that's the story around the national landscape. And so it's one of those things. It's not inconceivable for a 15-year-old to be dating an 18 or 19-year-old, and it's not really that crazy. But when you get down into like the 13, 14, and 12-year-olds, those are different type of kids, because the mind is extremely undeveloped, even though their bodies look however they look. And I don't know if you know, but there's a thing called the cerebral cortex that doesn't fully develop until we're 25 for most of us, and especially in men. And that means your thinking hasn't developed until that point, your cognitive thinking. And so we're less impulsive as we get older, right? And so it's one of those things that, like, to blame a kid that are at their height of their puberty, that want to have sex all the time, and girls that are attracted to them that are 3 to 4 years younger, that's not crazy to me. It's just not. I mean, because when I met my wife, we're 5 years apart, but she was 20 and I was 25. It was okay. But you back that up 2-3 years, it's not okay. Why? We're still together. It's ridiculous, But I don't know.
I agree.
It's tough.
I get what you're saying, 100%.
Yeah,
I really do. But I mean, there are other cases. I've known a few people who basically the situation got way out of hand, and they were accused of something that was just seemed wrong. Like, I know this one guy who was adjusting this little girl's skirt because she was exposing herself, and he was just adjusting her skirt so that she wouldn't, and her parents walked in right as he was doing that, and now he is a registered sex offender for the rest of his life. It's like, wow, that's pretty fucked. But, I mean, the whole thing of, I find it, to me, we should, people who do that willingly, like who do molest little kids or, just that type of shit, to me, they need to be put through what they put their victims through, and then they need to be fucking euthanized. Or chemically castrated, whichever.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, maybe the castration thing, but it's like, it's still, they're going to still have those thoughts. They're still going to look at kids that way. And my wife even thought, like, so, what if they're, like, one of your family members, or they're good people otherwise? I'm like, listen to what you said. They're good people otherwise. Other than the fact that they like to fuck kids, they're good people. It's like,
oh, yeah, because,
like,
no.
Are you kidding me?
No,
those two can't confuse. Like, if you fuck kids, you're horrible no matter what else you do in life. You're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, honestly, that's like saying Hitler was a good guy.
Right? He may have murdered millions of Jews, but he loved his mom.
Oh, yeah, he loved his mom, so he was awesome, right? Even though he killed all those people.
Yeah, So, I mean, he had some good qualities, right? Whatever.
Yeah, he loved his mom, so let's let him off. It's fine.
Yeah, fucking bullshit. Justifying shit like that, it just drives me nuts.
Wow, we got majorly off.
Yeah. Started talking about Hitler. That's always a good one. People are like, what?
Honestly, this is going to sound terrible, but Hitler is a regular conversation in this house.
Oh, wow.
Don't ask why, he just is.
Yeah, that's the thing about Hitler and that kind of stuff, too. It's like, I don't know how you feel on this one, but, like, I felt like when, you know, in the political scene, you said not to talk about politics, but I'll just barely hit on it kind of because of the Hitler thing. But I won't really, you know. Anyway, point being is they were always calling out someone as a Hitler. You know, they're Hitler-esque, you know, and it was a good way for the political banter. And I always felt like that's extremely dangerous to call someone that kind of thing, especially when they're not and you're just trying to score a political point. Because it's like, you know, it's like the boy that cried wolf kind of thing. Like, we should definitely call things for what they are rather than just trying to make it a good argument or a great statement or shock value, you know? I don't know how you feel about that, but I just kind of get bummed out on that.
Yeah, that is odd.
Yeah, sorry.
All right.
You're like, I don't want an opinion on that. Fuck that.
So I wanted to talk about the conditions that I have.
Of course, sorry, we went off track.
No, I figured that's what was going to end up happening. It's all good.
It is me, yeah.
But, so women need to be very aware of this. It's a small margin of women, but it can happen.
But it can happen to men, too, so this... Just understand, there's probably men out there that are, you know... Yeah, but there's probably men out there that are in the same situation. I mean, they obviously are with the polygamy thing, but in more of your situation, not to be hiding behind religion, but more legitimately in love with two women and are wondering how to make it work as well. So this advice could be beneficial to men as well. Not to interrupt you, I'm sorry again, but I just felt I should add that in.
You make a very valid point.
Thank you.
So thank you.
No, yeah, go ahead. Sorry. I'll try to shut up.
So a few years back, I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS for short.
Is that it?
So basically what that is, because like I said, very small margin of women have this, so it's not advertised all that much. Basically what happens is you don't ovulate correctly. Instead of producing, 3 to 4 eggs at a time, you produce 5 to 10 eggs. For me, I produce about 8 to 10 eggs per cycle. And it severely imbalances your hormones. For me, I produce too much estrogen, which turns into the male hormones that are testosterone and androgen. And my eggs, they get so overwhelmed, I guess you could call it, in the ovaries, that they latch onto my ovarian lining and become cysts. And they do rupture, and they cause quite a bit of pain. I have doctors tell me that the pain is all in my head, and if any of those doctors are listening, y'all can go fuck yourselves, because you're men and you don't understand. You don't have ovaries. You don't feel them bursting. So, yeah, sit on it and rotate, bitches.
Well, that's crazy to say that someone can't feel something, especially if something's bursting inside of them. That sounds kind of... To say that someone... I'm sorry, I was way away from the microphone. I said for someone to say that someone can't feel something, especially when it's something bursting inside of them, seems ridiculous.
It's excruciatingly painful.
Yeah.
And that has part of the reason to do with why I have such a hard time with pregnancies, obviously.
Yeah.
Because my eggs are so jacked up, and because my hormones are also jacked up. Mm-hmm. And then I've also got endometriosis, which is overgrowth of the uterus lining, and cysts can also grow inside the uterus, along the uterus lining, and outside the uterus lining. Now, both of those conditions that I have are severe. They're not acute, they're not medium, they're not mild. They are severe. My doctor didn't even want me working, but I fought tooth and nail to be able to work what I'm able to.
Sorry,
he wanted me on full disability.
Can I interrupt real quick and ask, I know this is, well, you're in it, but was this something that you would have developed either way, or was this something that happened because of the rapes?
They haven't figured out what the cause of it is. They just know that the women who end up developing it are the ones who started puberty at a young age.
Oh, okay. So that's more related to you starting puberty at 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and also, most of the time, it is hereditary.
Oh, wow. So your mom, does your mom have the same?
My mom, she has endometriosis. She also has another disease called interstitial cystitis, or IC for short. She also has vulvodynia and quite a few other diseases that I currently cannot remember because they're such big words, and no.
Wow.
I am not trying to hurt my brain that much.
Right, yeah. Well, it's a lot to remember. I mean, Jesus.
Mm-hmm. And so growing up, seeing her go through her menstrual cycle, I thought it was normal for it to be extremely painful and extremely heavy. And it wasn't until I got with Kyle that he pointed out that that's not normal. And then I started missing a lot of my periods. And I ended up going to the doctor, and it took quite a few years for them to pinpoint what it was. Some doctors thought I had an STD, and when they told me, that it was probably an STD, I told them they could go fuck themselves because there was no way in hell I had one. At that point, I had only been sexually active with 2 men, and I went and I had gotten tested regularly, and I had went and got tested regularly after I had been violated. So I knew I was clean. I knew Kyle wasn't cheating on me. And then after I got involved with Mark, I went and got tested too because I'm an idiot and we didn't use protection. But he was clean. He is clean. So whenever a doctor tells me, well, your penis probably from an STD, I just look at him like, go ahead, take your sample. You ain't going to find shit. So, ladies, if you're experiencing extremely painful periods and you don't know what's going on with your body, go get checked and get second and third opinions if you need to, because sometimes the doctors, they seriously don't know what's wrong. I kid you not, I think I went and I seen about 24 specialists before one was like, oh, yeah, this is what you have.
Yeah.
And,
well, doctors,
I also
it's a
have
practice.
hip and pelvic issues because of both of those.
Oh.
My hips love to dislocate themselves. My pelvis is constantly in pain. There's days I can't even get out of bed because it feels like I have a vice squeezing around my lower half, and I can't move. And it hurts so bad, and I deal with pain on a daily basis because of the cyst rupturing along my uterus and inside my ovaries, and it's excruciating. And I'm not going to lie, I do self-medicate with alcohol because I hate taking painkillers with passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And,
I understand that. No, I kind of don't like to take those things either. Excuse me, I don't like to take them either. I like to, unfortunately, know what the pain feels like because I think you're supposed to a certain extent. But I guess, obviously there's times when shit's too unbearable. But, yeah, I'm not really into the pharmaceuticals, but at the same time, I do think they do save plenty of lives. But also, it's it's that catch-22.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an alcoholic anymore. I had that battle a long time ago with alcohol, but now I know my limits, and both my men know what my limits are as well. So that's helpful.
Yeah.
And, with the endometriosis and the PCOS comes the anxiety and the depression and the major, major mood swings, kind of like you're going through menopause, only worse.
Jesus.
And the boys, they have both developed ways to help keep me calm and to just basically help me through whatever I'm going through, be it letting me just go off like a banshee on them and then coming back later and being like, okay, so what's really bothering you? they've really developed a way to help keep me calm and just bring me back down into the real world, which is really nice because I do need that in my life. I need people who can help keep me balanced, and they do that.
Yeah, I agree. Having friends and family, especially people you can actually confide in and trust like that, that's huge. I mean, especially if you don't have a therapist. But speaking on that, do you have a therapist as well, or?
I did speak therapy for a while. It helped a little bit, but I don't know. Therapy is just not for me. I'm not saying it's crap shit because I know plenty of people who it's worked for.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it helped me a little bit, but I just found it a little daunting to have to go and sit down with somebody and talk to them about how I was feeling and, like, what happened and all this and all that, when I can just talk to my boys about it, or I can talk to some really good friends about it, and they know me, so they kind of know how to help me better than the therapist would.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I think the only thing the therapist helps a lot of times, I think, is the skill sets. Like, they do know how to give you things like skills, in a sense, how to deal with them and stuff like that. But yeah, I agree. I mean, you don't always, because I say that a lot of times too, because you don't always need a therapist, but they are great to have, to use when you really need them. But yeah, I think having friends and family and being, like you said, being able to confide in them is huge. That's the biggest thing. It's like having someone you can trust and talk to. So you have two at least, and that's probably two more than most people. So pretty lucky in a way, And it's nice. I mean, that's the thing too. After I realized that I have a few people like that, it's like now I need to make sure I have that for them. That's something. Love to pay that one back.
Yeah, I mean, the support group I have is awesome, and the only reason I was seeking therapy is because I didn't want to burden everybody else with, the shit that I was going through. And then I realized that there is there for me, and I can ask for a better support group than what I've got.
That's awesome. It really is. I mean, when I look back at mine, it's like, it's amazing. Something like, oh, all these people love and care about me, and like, I'll be damned. How did I get so lucky? It's pretty weird.
And, I mean, I did get put on anxiety medication. I got put on Zoloft. And I was on it for about 2 months, and I was losing my fucking mind. Like, it just seemed like everything was intensified, and I was getting angrier quicker, and I was getting, more anxiety out than normal. And then one of my coworkers, she was like, you realize that if you have an aggressive personality, you're not supposed to be on that because it can make you even more aggressive and can escalate to massive violence.
Jesus.
And that was the last day I took those pills. I threw the rest of them away. I was like, nope.
Yeah, I did a Paxil thing for a little while. I think it was Paxil. I think that's the right name. And I could go through it did help short term for sure, because I was pretty down and out, so it did help. I'm not going to say they didn't, but after a while I noticed I was going back to doing life again, but I was very dronish, I was emotionless, and I was like, oh, well, it takes away all of those highs and lows and makes you very, very medium. But within that, for especially for my personality, it took away my personality, basically. And so at one point I stopped cold turkey, which you shouldn't do. But I did anyway. But it worked, kind of. I mean, I've had my ups and downs. But yeah, I think like I feel with like same thing with pain medications. Like sometimes if you can face it raw, it's better too, because then you can own it and you know really what it is, rather than having it clouded in some way.
Well, I wasn't really on the pills long enough to like have any withdrawal symptoms, thank God.
Yeah, that's good.
And I found ways to help control my anxiety and my depression. Mark actually got me a punching bag, so that way when I start to get like my angry anxiety, yes, I have different types of anxiety.
No. I'm laughing because the same thing happened to me. My mother-in-law actually bought a punching bag for me years ago. So it's just too funny, because I had asked for it anyway. So yeah, I do the same thing. Yeah, you just go out and rage on that, and you're all good.
So now when I get my anger anxiety, rather than hitting the walls, I go and I punch my bag.
Yeah.
And that seems to help because it tires me out. And when I throw my earbuds in and I start blaring my music and I'm just punching my bag, I go into another zone. And that helps me get out of that zone that I was in before. Because I do have PTSD too, but that's because of the life experiences that I've dealt.
Yeah.
And
you do.
so that also helps with my PTSD.
Yeah, it does. For me, it's like a punching bag, and motocross is my other thing. I go and ride motocross. So I always tell people, too, that have these type of issues is do something physical if you can, so that you learned it already. So, yeah, try any other thing you can, things that, obviously that you can afford, of course, too. But, yeah, having those interests are huge.
For me, depending on, like, what's going through my mind, I find that either, doing the punching bag or dancing around like a lunatic, or writing, drawing, anything artsy-fartsy is up my alley. So when I'm feeling some kind of way, I'll do what will help me get out of that zone and into a more productive zone, to where I'm no longer thinking about what was dragging me down. And a lot of the things that would drag me down would have to be the endometriosis and the PCOS, because it makes me feel like I'm less of a woman a lot of the time. And, that gets me severely depressed. And Kyle, he's come home from lunch countless times to me just bawling my eyes out, because I'm like, you deserve way better than this. You deserve a woman who can give you kids, who's not a fucking lunatic, and he's always there, and he's just like, you realize you're more woman than half these women on this planet, and
so
you're
let me
perfect
ask you,
just the way you are.
when you're trying to push him away, because I've done this to my wife many a time, do you feel it's because you love them so much that what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, I want nothing but the best for my boys,
and you feel like you're a drag.
I don't feel like I am the best for them.
I feel the same way, but I hope you listen to my last two. But the thing is, like I said, it's like feeling suicidal and depression and stuff like that. It's like if you were to commit suicide, it's like all that pain you feel, you get to pass it on now to Mark and Kyle and anyone else that loves you. So it's not like you get to take that pain with you. Now you just gave it to everyone else. So it's definitely a selfish thing. But it's not going to take away how you feel and the burdenship and those things. But for me, I try to recognize when I'm starting to feel that now is like just acknowledge the fact they wouldn't be here if you weren't worth it. They wouldn't be by your side if you weren't worth it. They wouldn't put up with everything they've already put up with if you weren't worth it. So the burden thing, I get it, because I wear it too, and many of us do. A lot of viewers and listeners, I'm sure, feel the same way. But we're not burdens, for sure.
A lot of people joke around, mainly the older generations, that anxiety and depression is not a real thing. It's just something that the pharmaceutical companies came up with to prescribe you more medication and blah blah blah. It's like, no, it really is. It is a real thing. It is mental illness.
It was just as real for
everybody. Everybody has it to a certain degree.
Well, in the military, they used to call it shell shock. World War I, World War II is shell shock, and then it became, I can't remember all the different names they called it. The Vietnam era folks, they had their own, flashbacks or whatever it was. So they all had the names for it, and now it's become PTSD. But the reality is PTSD has been around for a very, very long time. And I even like people that take off the D and just call it post-traumatic stress, because calling it a disorder kind of almost puts you in that weird category. Is again, like you have a disorder. But the reality is most every human is going to experience that kind of stress at some point in their lives. Some of us just experience it too young or too much of it, or pretty extreme.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is, it's been around forever. But what they don't think about is what caused them, probably most likely their health issues, cancers or whatever, was never dealing with their traumatic issues. They stuffed them, and they had Prozac for women back in the day, and they drugged up the housewives that didn't like their lifestyle in the 50s and 60s, and Yeah, so I mean, it's been around forever. I think they always did the manly thing and stuffed it. Thought that was like what was required of us, is not to acknowledge it, and air your business was always the thing too. Like, that was always supposed to be kept quiet, and I think that was, to me, the way I look at it, not just to justify myself, but I think those were truly weak men. I think a strong person in general owns their shit, no matter what it is, and are willing to say, yeah, I cry, because I do. I fucking cry a lot. I say it all the time, and it's like, that's the thing too. It's like, if you judge me on that or whatever, I think I'm less than a man, then
no judgment whatsoever. I cry daily. So.
Yeah, my thing is, I don't give a shit. I'm not here to please you, and if you want to make fun of me over that, I just think that shows how small you are as a person. So I just don't really have the time to care about your. I guess it's like a popularity contest, and I don't want to be a part of it. I could care less.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Growing up, I had to grow up at a very young age. I was 13 when I had to grow up because both of my parents got sick. And I always felt like I could never break. So I learned how to go numb real quick. And in all honesty, that does more damage than it does good in the long run.
Yeah, but when you're young, that's the only coping skill you have, because you have to do that to make it during that time. It's now
exactly.
in your age you're at, you're having to deal with it all. You're having to face it, and that's when I did too. I was in my mid-20s when I started facing it all. So to be honest, to let you in on something, it's a lifelong journey. It's like not like you ever are always okay with it, but you get better at dealing with it as long as you're willing to put in the time.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, the longest time, I had this mantra of pain doesn't hurt, emotions do. And then I also thought that crying showed weakness, and it wasn't until Kyle came into my life that I realized it was okay to break, and it was okay to cry, because that just showed that I was human, and it showed that I was stronger than I was, because I'd pick myself up and I'd get right back into it. And
we think it's strong to be mad, but it's like, it's just another emotion,
Yeah, and I owe a lot of thanks to Kyle for helping me get through a lot of things, because I've been through so many abusive relationships, to the point to where if somebody would approach me a certain way, I would flinch, and he helped me break that habit. And he's definitely helped me through a lot of the things that have made me into the person I am today, and I don't think I could have gotten through it without him. And then when Mark came into the picture, he also helped me through other things too, just as important, more current at the time. And I honestly don't know where I'd be without either one of them. And
do you tend to push either of them away because you doubt the love too? Like, you feel like, because I tend to push people away sometimes because I doubt the love. Like, not that they're incapable, but at the same time, like, why do they love me, kind of thing. And so,
oh God, I go through that all the time.
I was just curious.
I'm pretty sure they're both sick of me being like, why do you love me?
Right. Well, it's because we were raped. I think that's part of it, Really, no, honestly, I think that's also, you hit on something earlier about being sexually active and stuff, and it's like, I still feel like I'm a teenager. I still feel like I'm 17, like I have this huge sex drive. And I was just kind of curious. I think that, because I asked someone else about that same thing, someone older than me even, and said that yes, they think the same thing. And I'm sure there's psychologists out there screaming their heads off saying, yeah, it is. It's called this. But yeah, I am probably more sexually active than, or not active, but more, what's the word I'm looking for? What would you call it?
Have a higher libido?
There you go. Or just desiring
sex
it more.
Drive?
There, yeah,
okay,
yeah. And it's like I think about it often. It's like I made the joke on one of my earlier podcasts about the Adidas thing. I don't know if you know the acronym for Adidas. It was for us when I was a kid. It was all day I dream about sex was the acronym for Adidas. And so it was kind of like the teenage boy thing and some teenage girls. Can't speak for everybody. But yeah, it seems like that's something that just didn't stop. It hasn't stopped for me.
I understand
and
that.
I crave
even
my
with
wife
how
so much, and she's
painful-
like, would you leave me alone? You know, I'm always,
Yeah.
yeah, it's,
Like,
I'm annoying, I guess.
honestly, they both swear I'm going to be the death of them because of how high my sex drive is, which confuses a lot of people.
Well, yeah, especially with the pain you're in.
Because of my diseases,
Yeah.
they would think that sex is very painful for me because of my cyst rupturing and
Right.
everything. But honestly,
I was going to ask that.
when I'm having sex, I don't feel that pain. It's like the only time I ever get any real relief from the pain. As weird as that is, and a lot of people can't wrap their heads around it.
No, I can wrap it, of course. It's the endorphins and everything else. And you think about how the body works, it makes total sense.
Yeah, and, you know, I mean, I really enjoy having sex. I do. I mean, are there sometimes where, you know, one of them wants it and I'm just like, no, go away. Okay, fine, let's do it. Yeah.
Is it more like
But,
if you're the one initiating a course, right? Then it's what you want.
Yeah, usually I'm the one who's like, hey, I'm horny with your dick out.
Gotcha. But you don't, if you're not in the mood, or even if you're in, is it always they just wait for you to initiate with them? Is that kind of how that works, or?
Either I'll initiate or they initiate.
Oh,
honestly, it's kind of equal. Okay, no, it's not. I initiate more. But, I mean, they do initiate quite a bit as well, in their own little dorky, quirky ways.
Well, guys are
know,
dumb. We just don't know how to grunt properly still.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's a, hey, you wanna? And then other times it's just a, you know, we're in the middle of sleeping and they'll just, you know, whoever I'm with, they'll start snuggling up behind me and then it's like, oh, hey, let's talk about the first thing that pops up. And next thing I know, you know, we're getting it on. And then there's other times where one of us will slam the other one up against the wall and just start going at it. You know,
Wow.
I mean, there's all different ways that it happens with us. You know, sometimes it can be pretty docile. Other times it can get like, holy crap, is somebody getting killed in there type deal.
Well, not to throw a crowbar in you guys' fun, but you know, if you have a kid, that shit almost stops, especially like, you know, when they're awake. Which is almost all the time.
I know.
So your party's going to go,
That's on the torture floor.
You got to get a bigger house or something.
Oh, yeah. We'll have to get a house that has, like, a guest room.
Uh-huh.
Or, I mean, a guest house in the back. So
Yeah.
that can be, like, our... And, yes, I'm going to call Jersey Shore here. We need a smush room.
Oh, Jesus, like soundproofing and shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, no, I'm just kidding. No, but we have been recording for quite a while. I think we're about an hour and a half in. Is that where we're at now?
I think so. And Kyle just came in here and he's giving
2
me
hours.
the look of, I want to go to bed.
Yeah, we're almost 2 hours in, so we're good. But we can always do another one, of course, and we can always update people on how it's going with you and stuff like that down the road as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Whether it's the medical
and,
or relationships or
I didn't answer
whatever.
your question earlier on
what's
how
that?
long this has been going on.
Yeah.
Just for everybody to know, it's been going on for 3 wonderful years.
Okay, great. Well, keep us updated, and you know the hotline, so we'll keep you updated on, you know, you can keep contacting me through text or whatever, or even phone calls. And, you know, if you ever want to do another one, or when you do, or whatever you want to cover, just let me know. And
Oh, heck yeah.
well, thanks for doing it. I really appreciate it. I'll let you go, and then I'll go ahead and do my sign-off after that. So, everyone, thank you for listening to Samantha. And Samantha, thank you for being on BCNDC, and hope you have a good night.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and this was awesome. I would love to do it again.
Great. Sounds good. Awesome. Well, we'll talk to you soon.
All right. You have a good night, man.
All right. Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bye. All right, everyone. That was a great one. That was awesome. I really appreciate Samantha coming on the show. We've been trying to do this for a few months now, and so we finally got it all worked out. And obviously, it was a pretty good long one. I think we're about, like I said, about 2 hours in. So, but it is a two-parter. So for the YouTube, so that'll be fine. And so anyhow, thanks everyone for listening as always. I really appreciate my audience, whether it's on video or on audio. And I really want this to be a you thing. The more people that want to be on the podcast, you're more than welcome. If you want to make comments on this podcast or any other, you're more than welcome. You can hit my hotline at 541-241-8866. And like I said, if you want to be part of the show in any way, hit me up and we'll get it taken care of. Because this is a podcast I want to be about the community of everyone that wants to be involved. And we're adding people to the list, and it excites me a lot. I really love getting to know new people and getting to know how we all think and feel in this world. And no matter what lifestyles we have, there's a commonality in all of us, and that's just simple love. And for us to judge others on the way they live, that's just, like I said, man, you sure you want to be judged on your shit? That and if it works for them, great. You know what I mean? They're not bad people, so who fucking cares? And man, I don't know. I think if they're happy, then they're happy. Then who cares, right? There's something I was thinking about. I kind of wrote it down earlier because I was thinking about this before I did the interview, and I was thinking kind of like, because it's about certain songs and how we can all relate to songs and stuff like that. Like there's certain lyrics in songs that just kind of hit us all, and I started thinking about that. It's like, so how does it's kind of like, well, why I wrote it. Life can be pretty interesting. How someone can write a song that somebody can relate to, and it must be something similar we all go through for us to be able to relate to it. And so I started thinking about like a lot of those songs are relationship songs, and we talked about relationships tonight. And so I wrote, relationships are very difficult. They're extremely important. They're impossible to get perfect, but they're always needed. Now, whether they be sexual, whether they just be many multitudes of love, whatever that is, that's important for all of us. So to shit on someone else's love only shows how shallow you are. So just let people love who they want to love. What does it matter to you, And if you're afraid about them, like, indoctrinating your kids, well, maybe you should fucking teach them better, And if you're worried about that. And the thing is, too, it's like, kids are going to be kids. And as far as their sexuality and things like that, they're going to choose it on their own, no matter what your influence is, no matter what you say. Sex is something that is in us. I'm starting to realize that more and more with this stuff about labels and whatnot. Like, I guess I'm getting hung up on some of those words because I don't really dig them. But the reality is I accept, no matter what lifestyle it is, I think you're entitled to it, So, anyhow, this has been a really long one. Thank you all for listening and watching. I've rambled quite a bit because this was nice. And I hope you guys got to listen to someone else a little more than me this time. So, thanks again for listening. I'll post as soon as I can. It's pretty late, so I might end up doing this tomorrow. So thanks again, and have a good night. Love you all. Take care of yourselves. Mental health is very important, like we were talking about. Have friends to talk to at least. Seek out a therapist if you need. And if you're truly suicidal, I wrote down the hotline. It's 1-800-273-8255. Once again, that's 1-800-273-8255 or 1-800-273-TALK, and that is the suicide prevention hotline. I think it's nationwide, obviously. So if you're ever feeling down, those are the pros to talk to. And like I said, and Andy has told me, if there's friends around you, they're acting a little different, you need to check in on them and make sure they're okay and hit them up and take them out, lunch, breakfast, whatever it is. All right. Once again, I think I said I was going to be done, so this should be done. All right. Love you all. I'll let you go out on a little Michaela Hester, and until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourselves. Love you. Bye. Ah, shit. Hooked up to the mic still.